Hi, everyone, and welcome to another great car here on the Car Reviews podcast with CollectorCarCanada.ca. Before we get into detail about this car, I also want to remind you about our Collector Car Stories podcast, which is rather than a review of the car we have on the website, we just hit a fun topic about automotive. We always have a guest. That guest might be there to talk about a car, a collection of cars, some kind of car event, but something related. We have a lot of fun with it, so I do encourage you to take a look. You might see someone you know, and hey, maybe you'll be on the next episode. If you have a car topic you'd like to share, hit us up at info@collectorcarcanada.ca. Tell us your idea, and maybe we'll shoot a Collector Car Stories podcast with you. Now, on to the car we have today, which is a 1973 Ford Mustang Mach 1 4-speed manual. And before I get too deep into it, I want to tell you that this car is from the Big Guys collection. Followers of the website might remember us running a few of the Big Guys cars previously. Now, the big guy, we're not going to name him by name, but you might be able to figure out who he was. He was a long-time successful Ford Lincoln dealer. In the early days, he was a Lincoln Mercury dealer. He was a franchise dealer for 42 years, and sadly, he passed away back in the late fall of 2023. He left a really neat collection for his survivors, but it's a collection that was a little too large for them to be able to exercise. So they decided to approach us, and we've been helping them with the sale of 6 cars. So this and another we're offering at the same time are the last 2 of the 6. So getting into this car, again, a 1973 Ford Mustang Mach 1 4-speed manual. It's lot 252 on CollectorCarCanada.ca. A little bit about the car. The big guy picked this one up in 2019. Would you believe someone traded this in on a new car at the big guy's Ford Lincoln dealership, which is still being run by the same management. Among them is 2 surviving children. And I'm actually, despite the natural surroundings, it looks like I'm sitting beside the dealership right now. And you might think, wow, that medium copper metallic paint is gleaming. Well, that's because this car has just been treated to a new paint job and new decal kit and stripe kit as well. So you can see the black stripe going over the medium copper metallic. Factory correct for the Mach 1, and this is an authentic Mach 1 with a 351 Cobra jet engine with the 4-barrel carb. So speaking of that engine, I think it's time now for me to start it. We'll have a listen to the engine and the idle exhaust, and we'll get a little deeper into this 1973 Ford Mustang Mach 1 4-speed manual. It is lot 252 on CollectorCarCanada.ca. So here we go with the start. I couldn't help but rev it just a little bit because this big old 351 sounds like it's ready to go. Usually I tell our sellers to only let the engine idle, but this one sounds so good, I can't help but let it rumble a bit. Okay, I've had myself indulgent fun. I'll grab the camera you're watching me on now, and we'll begin a little bit more of a tour with me holding the camera. Okay, so a good time of the day for photography. The medium copper metallic is really glowing in the late afternoon, early sunlight here in the Orleans area of Ottawa. As I say, we're beside the dealership that the big guy, the Ford Lincoln dealership, the big guy left to the same management, including his 2 children. So we'll move in, get close to the engine. We'll pop the hood. I've got a separate microphone here. I'm going to pop that down. No internal release for the hood. I'm going to need to use my camera hand here. And there we go. Nice and simple, no prop rods. You can just see the springs on the hinges. So I'll get that second microphone in so you can hear the the engine idling. Okay, so back to my microphone. Before we button up the hood, I just wanted to point out a few things. There are a few subtle modifications in here. I do notice an MSD ignition, and there's of course the label for the 351 Cobra Jet engine. Note the regular fuel decal as well. So this one will run on 87 octane. I also notice the valve covers have been changed out to a set of Ford Racing valve covers, which look really sharp. But otherwise, we're looking at a pretty stock engine compartment. Here's a diehard battery. And I also note the top of the hood's very presentable as well. Don't know if it was repainted recently or not, but if not, it sure didn't need it. So one last look at the engine compartment. And we'll move along to the rear to hear that idle from the exhaust end. So there's that new stripe kit over the new medium copper metallic paint. Mach 1 detail on the trunk lid. If I said detail, I meant decal. And the black spoiler, the contrasting black spoiler, same color as the stripe. So here's a listen to the exhaust. Sounding healthy and strong from the 351 Cobra Jet V8. So I think we're done with the engine running portion of the video. I'm going to cut the engine and we'll start with a walk around to the exterior. Now I always like to make a point of showing flaws to viewers of the exterior. This one it's going to be pretty difficult. With the fresh repaint and decal kit, everything is looking tip-top. I was going to say the grill looks like it has some patina, but it's just a little dusty, as you can see. So maybe a little patina here on the headlight surrounds, but a fine-looking 52-year-old automobile. There is a tiny bit of flake in this paint, and this time of day really picks it up. There's also a front spoiler down here. Again, a little dusty, but looking like in very good condition. Moving along to the wheels, we have a set of Magnum 500 wheels, certainly period correct for a Ford Mustang of the day. There is a staggered set of tires on this car. I can read 235/60 R15 on the front driver's tire here, and that's got an S speed rating. I did note the date codes on the tires. I see a year 18 for this one. I think that's what I see anyway. I might be fibbing. I might see a 12 for that. But we've got close-up photos of it on our detailed listing, so take a look at that. I defer to that. And the striping kit certainly wakes up, well, not that the brand new medium copper metallic paint needs waking up, but I guess I'll say the black stripe kit really has a sharp contrast against the medium copper metallic. I'm not sure if the camera is picking up that fine flake in the sunlight, but to the naked eye, it really does look sharp. I don't even notice any runoff on the paint. I'll keep my eye open for that as we continue our walk around of the car. But this paint job was no weekend job. We're sitting next to a franchise Ford dealership, and the dealership comes with a body and paint shop among its appointments. So in fact, keen observers of the website will note that our lot number for this car, 252, is a little bit out of alignment with some of the recent cars we've had. And that's because uh, the dealership certainly took its time and made sure it got the paint right. The reason I came back to the front wheel here is to show a disc brake. And I know the rear brakes are drums. So back to the tire here. As I say, a staggered set, so a little wider here in the rear. 255, 60, R15. Again with the S speed rating on the BF Goodrich raised white letter radial TA. So look, a sharp number here. So again, 1973, the last year of the first generation Mustang. First generation Mustang went from model year 65 to 73. A lot of people talk about the 64 and a half Mustangs, which is reasonable to say. They were produced in early 64, but the registrations for those cars, in fact, read 1965. And really, in my mind, there were 3 or 4 sub-generations within that first generation. Again, this is the last. In 1974, Ford went to the Mustang II among OPEC pressures and fuel economy pressures. Certainly not feeling the pressure with this 351 Cobra Jet V8. So here we are at the rear fascia. We got dual exhaust. Both pipes look, I won't say they look new, but they don't look weathered. It's important to note that while this car was in the big guy's collection, it was stored at a dedicated heated storage facility, not at the dealership. So there's a good look at the rear of the car with the Mach 1 decal. And I'll give you a little bit of a look at the underneath. But we do have photos of the underneath, certainly on the detailed listing. Again, lot 252. And there's that smart black spoiler. Again, the contrast against the fresh medium copper metallic paint. Over here to the shaded side of the car. Paint doesn't gleam, of course, because we're against the sun over here. But there's a good look at the Magnum 500 here on the passenger's rear. Again, a BF Goodrich radial TA. In addition to the paint, I'll mention that there was some surface rust that was repaired on the rockers. So they decided, if we're going to paint a rocker, we're going to paint the whole car, and that's what they've done. So even matching paint throughout. A good inclusion to mention for a period car is that it's got a passenger side sport mirror matching the driver's side. In 1973, not every car had that on the passenger side. In fact, I own a car, model year 1973, and the only side mirror it has is on the driver's side. Here's a good look at the fixed antenna. And I don't know if it shows on the shaded side of the car here, but this is what I'm talking particularly about the 351 Ram Air label because it's very bright. I'll show it to you on the sun side of the car in a minute, but important to note that it's a NASA hood, as Ford calls it, also known as a Ram Air hood. So here's the last of the 4 tires. I'll show you. Passenger front, BF Goodrich radial TA with the raised white lettering, and polished Magnum 500 rims measuring 15 inches. So I think I gave you a good look at the front already. I'll just zoom in on that 351 Ram Air decal, and you can see how clean it looks. And it looks that clean because it's new. New in the past, 2 or 3 weeks, I'd say. Again, I was on the big guys people to get this car ready for us. I've been keen to have it on the website for some weeks, but as I say, they took their time and they got it right with this paint. And as soon as I got here, I could tell that that's exactly what they had done. So that wraps up our exterior tour. Let's take a look at the inside. So here's a good look at the driver entry point here on the driver's side of the 1973 Ford Mustang Mach 1 Ford 4-speed manual. Door card here. You'll note the manual crank windows, manual locks, and a remote control here for the side mirror. I'll climb in. I will say it was very difficult to find any flaws on the finish of the car on the exterior. I'll show you a few on the inside though. You can see that this lights knob has lost a bit of its finish. And there's the defrost. And this would be a vent. Here you can see the Mustang emblem on the steering wheel, standard issue, certainly in 1973, this two-spoke wheel. Over here on the left, we have warning lights for oil pressure, alternator, temperature, and brakes. In the center is a fuel gauge, and you'll see one defect we have here. The lens covering the fuel gauge is cracked and missing a little chunk at the top. Over here to the right, we've got the 120 mile per hour speedometer. The odometer reads 7,205. We believe the car to have traveled 107,205 miles. However, we're promoting this one as true mileage unknown. We do not have documentation on a continuous basis as the miles were added over the last 52 years. And a file note here, there's a crack on this dash cover right here. It's at an interesting spot. It's not so visible from the driver's seat, but it's there. And then I note replacement gauges in the center stack for oil pressure, voltmeter, and coolant temperature. There's a little, I was going to say there's a little surprise in the trunk. It's actually not in the trunk right now, but there's a box that will be in the trunk when the car goes to its new owner, and it contains this piece in the center stack. So this, all these surrounds, there's a picture of it both in the box and covered and on its own on the detailed listing. Again, it's lot 252. So it looks like this stock AM radio is still in place, and it is. But we have a little surprise in the glove box over here where there's a modern Pioneer unit. So that modern unit also comes with a remote control and a double DIN unit. We'll put the model on the detailed listing so that the Dr. Google folks among us can check out the specs on that one. There it is there if you want to grab it right now. I'll try and get focused in on that. There we go. Close up that glove box. And then below the stock AM radio is your normal heating and ventilation controls. And I mentioned it's a 4-speed manual. There's a good look at the factory shift knob and the Hurst shifter. You can see Hurst on that shaft, and a shift boot in rubber. Period correct, certainly. I suspect these might be the original carpets. Certainly they're the texture of the originals, and they do show a bit of sun bleaching for that nice patina look. A couple neat pieces of literature. There's a 1973 Mustang postcard. So I think that's probably been with the car since it was born. And then there's a factory, well, I should say dealer brochure, which on the inside it's quite, the colors are quite bright, but on the outside it's suffering from some sun bleaching over the past 52 years. Black vinyl seats with the high back buckets in the front, and then in the rear we've got 2 seat belts, so room for 2 in the rear. I'll also mention that there's a set of floor mats with the car, but they're not the factory mats. They're probably Ford mats, being that we're beside a Ford dealership, and this was the car of a successful Ford Lincoln dealer. But yeah, it comes with mats, but not the stock mats. I'll also mention on that rear parcel shelf, you can see a couple of speakers to support that big Pioneer deck head unit that's hiding in the glove box. This car, I'm going to show you the trunk. Not too much to see there, but it's nice and clean. And I thought I'd also mention that the car comes with the car cover you see in the trunk here. So yeah, got some CCC personal effects there, but there's a good look at the trunk. Very presentable. I'll take the long way back to the tripod, and then we'll move along to some closing thoughts on lot 252, the 1973 Ford Mustang Mach 1 4-speed manual. Look at that. Sharp car in medium copper metallic. So that's a good look at our 1973 Ford Mustang Mach 1 4-speed manual from the collection of the big guy. If you're interested in learning more about the big guy and his collection and his success as a Ford Lincoln dealer over the years, take a look at the first menu on the website. On the far right on a computer, or the last menu item on a phone or tablet, there's a menu item called Fun Stuff. And I think it's the second item down, but right around there, you'll see that currently we have a page dedicated to the big guy, his collection, and his business success over the years. So again, we've got the 1973 Ford Mustang Mach 1 4-speed manual, freshly painted by a body shop within a Ford dealership, which is adjacent to where I stand right now. So not a weekend job. 351 Cobra Jet V8. That's mated to a 4-speed manual, getting the power to the rear wheels, and the rumble of that engine through that dual exhaust is mean sounding, but a lot of fun. Certainly a nice reminder of the way things used to be with the big V8s among the domestics. So that's a good look. As I say, I think we'll end off now. So thank you for watching, and we're going to go on to the next car.